Thank you for joining us again. My name is Luis Espinosa, the Director for the Office of Evangelization and Catechesis. And today we want to continue looking forward and talking more about our role as laity, in that the previous time we talked a little bit about how we participate in the roles of Christ, priest, prophet, and king. But then also in some parts is looking at in our role as we help our brothers and sisters. And so one of the things that we need to think about and consider is whether I am a fully initiated member. And so when we are growing up and we're going through classes, CCD, faith formation, one of the things that we focus on is on the sacraments, on preparing and celebrating the sacrament of reconciliation, preparing and celebrating the sacrament of First Communion or receiving First Holy Communion, but also confirmation. And so sometimes what happens is not everybody gets to be able to prepare and celebrate all the sacraments. And so to be a fully initiated member in the church, we have to have received both First Communion and confirmation. And so why I bring this up is because right now we're in that time, in that season where if we have not already celebrated sacraments, we're going to celebrate more sacraments or the reception of sacraments by many of our children and young people. And so one of the questions that we may be asked as adults is whether or not we can become or be a godparent or a sponsor. And so we have to remind all our faithful that there are some qualities, some things that have to be met before I could be even considered a godparent or be considered to take on that role as a sponsor. And so Code of Canon Law, when we look at the numbers 872 to 874, those canons give us those details, that information about what are those qualities required of a sponsor, of a godparent. And so one of the things we have to focus on and remember is that in order for us to function in that role as a godparent, we need to be fully initiated members of the church. So remember, being fully initiated members means that we have been baptized, confirmed, and received Eucharist. All three things. And so right off the bat, again, the conversation that we have to have is, in order for a person to be considered to be either a godparent or a sponsor, is first, are they fully initiated? Then second is, are they living a life in the church? Are they receiving the sacraments? Are they going to Mass every Sunday? Are they faithful, practicing Catholics? So part of this discussion also is some of the other qualities that are required is that if I am with someone else, am I married in the eyes of the church? So one of the things that we have to look at and be careful with is a person married in the church? If they're living with somebody or they're civilly married, are they married in the church? Because this would disqualify a person from becoming a godparent or a sponsor. It's not that the church is saying no, it's that you cannot model, you cannot witness the faith if you're not married in the church. And so again, looking back at, the requirements are be or have all the sacraments of initiation, be fully initiated members. And second, if you are married, be married in the eyes of the church. And if not, then what are you waiting for? That's been the dialogue that I've had with many people, is going ahead and following up and seeking the sacraments of initiation that you may be lacking, and even preparing to receive the sacrament of holy matrimony. So these are some of the things that I wanted to be sure to share with everybody, that this applies if we want to be a godparent or a sponsor at baptism, if we want to be a sponsor at confirmation, both ands, that we need to be fully initiated members, we need to be married in the church and have a life active in the way that we can, especially right now in time of COVID. How are we active members of the parish that we pertain to or we are members of? And so it could be that right now, since we still have the dispensation, that we are not obliged to attend Mass, are we following along virtually? Are we praying? How are we staying engaged or involved in our parish community? And so many of our parishes are continuing to have many virtual classes, lessons, or gatherings using Zoom or some other virtual software that's out there. And so even social media, using Facebook, using Twitter to stay connected. And so looking at, especially now as we seem to be seeing more lax in the protocols, and that now we have the ability to use every pew in the parish, we see that more people are attending Mass, more people are participating. But the question goes back to is, How am I continuing to grow in my faith? How am I continuing to nourish myself spiritually by praying? And so that's one of the other things I wanted to close by saying is that, what is our prayer life like? Do I spend time on a daily basis praying and being a model to those that I meet? And so praying in the morning, praying at noontime, in the evening, and even at night. How or what are ways that I'm staying engaged in prayer, praying and conversing with God, and falling more in love with His church? And so with this, I want to bring this to a close because I thought it would be very important that we remember these canons, canons 872 through 874, specifically looking at 874 to see what are those requirements, what are those qualities that we ask for godparents or for sponsors for the sacraments of baptism and for confirmation.